morning and welcome to the IELTS speaking examination organized here at Thompson School. My name is Asadbek Shukourovnинг. I am going to be your examiner for today. Can I get to know your full name, please?
My name is Asadbek Shukourovnинг. You can call me just Asad.
Okay, Asad. We are about to have the first part first, as banal as it sounds, and I'm going to ask you a few questions here about yourself and a few other general questions. Well, Asad, what do you do? Do you study or do you work?
Currently, I'm a student. I'm studying at the school. I'm just about to graduate in the school.
Do you have any working experience?
Yes, during my school curriculum, I attended to the education center as an assistant for the teachers, and I helped the teachers to provide the lessons better, preparing the papers or some materials for which is needed for the teachers.
Okay. Coming back to your school, do you have a certain favorite subject?
Yes, it is definitely mathematics. It's just because of my brother encouraged me to study better on a math, as he was an Olympic participant from the math at the school, and he made me to study math better. So I like the math most.
Okay. Let's talk about accommodation here as well in the first part, and I want to ask you a very simple question. Where do you live? Is that a house or is that an apartment?
It is apartment. Since my childhood, I've never lived in a house, just because my daddy don't like the house that much. We prefer more accommodation.
You prefer the flats?
Yes.
Okay. And in the future, do you think you will continue living in a flat?
Yes, because I used to live in a flat, and it is more convenient than the casual houses. Everything on that place, and the moving from the room to room is more convenient in a flat.
Okay. And in what kind of accommodation do most of the people live in your city?
In my city, there are a lot of skyscrapers. Let's say it's like skyscrapers, and houses are not that much populated in our city.
Okay, and now here in the first part, let's also talk about lists. Do you often make lists?
As a perfectionist person, I do like the making a list, because making a list makes you day on a plan, and I have to follow the plan coming to the list.
Do you prefer making lists on paper or on a device like phone?
Definitely on a paper, because physical actions values more than the typing, and you will be the more responsible than the typing on the devices while you are writing the list.
And why do you think some people dislike making lists?
Because they just don't like to plan their day, or they are that much lazy to making a list, because a list is one of the proper way to plan your day.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to the second part. Here in the second part, I'm going to give you a cue card, and the cue card is going to be: describe an important text message you received. You should say who sent the message, what was in the message, why the person sent the message, and explain why the message was so important to you. You will have a minute to prepare. You can make notes on this paper right here. Okay, we're now about to start. Please remember you should be speaking for around 2 minutes. If I stop you, don't worry.
Okay, the most important text message was from the IDP. It's IELTS organizer in Tashkent, and just because of I've been studying the English for a long time, and for the exact IELTS I spent about 3 months, and it was unexpected message from the IDP, which I received my speaking date. Speaking is one of my leg side of in the IELTS, so the speaking date most worried me from the time that I started the IELTS. When I received this message, I skipped it, and for being ready to open it, I waited for about 5 minutes, and wishing the good, I opened this message, and they've written that my speaking would be at the lunchtime. It is exactly 14:00, but which made me feel more contradicted from the other candidates. It was the address, because as I know, the most of the IELTS speaking would be in high university, but mine was in a business center, and it made me feel a little bit confused. But most of my worries was who would be taking my IELTS speaking test. Just because of the IELTS is one of the international tests which I needed in my future. Speaking most worried me.
Done. Thank you. We're now going to move on to the third part. Here in the third part, I would like to ask you a few more questions about messages, about text messages. And my first question is, why do some people dislike using text messages?
It's up to the people's preference, because most of the people like the texting the messages, but as I know that some people, like old people, don't like sending the text message. They prefer the paper messages, like letters. Maybe it's a gap generation, so that's why they don't like text messages.
Okay. And why do you think some people prefer texting as compared to phone calls?
Maybe it is just less emotions on the text messages. While we are speaking, you will show your emotions about the topic, but while you are texting messages, you will just send the information, not your emotion. But currently the stickers may replace your emotions, but it's fake.
Mm-hmm. And do you think modern technology has any negative influence on communication?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's definitely affected the people's communication with others. People become more rude, and they have two different personality in a real life and in a social life, in a social media. They want to be mentioned in the social media, so they do how to be promoted in this current social medias.
Okay. And can you tell me, are there any advantages of the recent or modern technology on the way we communicate?
Yes, definitely, because it's the fastest way of the communicating with any people in the world. We can reach to the people even in America just clicking by the one button. The quickest way of the communication, it's an advantage of the modern technology.
Thank you. That is the end of the speaking test. When it comes to the feedback for this candidate, I am sure that the fluency and coherence deserves a certain 6 because the candidate was not, was not fast enough in certain moments. There were some pauses related to hesitation as well. When it comes to lexical resource, I believe some words were overused, words such as convenient, and some words were misused, words such as casual. And then lack in the third part, I think that was also misused in a certain moment. When it comes to grammar, as some people may have already noted, there were issues with articles, and there were issues with is, are, and were, and in certain moments the candidate also made pronunciation mistakes, which means that both grammar and pronunciation also deserve a 6. So for each criteria, it's going to be a 6. And I remember the moment when the candidate also mispronounced the word skyscrapers, right? And when candidates make obvious mistakes in pronunciation like these, I believe this pronunciation is not going to be a 7, it's going to be a 6 for sure, but not lower than 6 because I managed to understand most of the words the candidate has pronounced. There we go, 6 for each criterion, which overall brings us, creates us a score of 6, a certain 6 for this speaking candidate.